Welcome to the 1992 Ironman Lanzarote. Lanzarote, well, that's the northeastmost island of Spain's Canary Archipelago, 150 miles off the northeast African coast. It's got an astonishing variety of landscapes that only a volcanic atoll can provide. And we've come here for the inaugural 1992 Ironman Lanzarote. So, Lanzarote. As a medieval legend says that Sir Lancelot du Lac, you remember him of the old King Arthur time? Well, he dedicated any spare time he had from his amorous adventures with Queen Genevieve to search for the Holy Grail, that precious, sacred and mythical cup. He was trying to find it for King Arthur. In his wanderings, he came upon this volcanic island, which was subsequently named after him. You guessed it, Lancelot in Spanish is Lanzarote. Lanzarote, well, that's not just a superb location for the sabbatical, very popular with the tourists now, but it's also a popular place for the athletes to train and race. And actually no stranger to triathlons or triathletes. The island does have a tremendous variety of scenery, and for those of you who want not just the sun, it's the place to come to see some beautiful countryside. So you might be asking why Lanzarote for an Ironman, which is normally associated with Hawaii, which of course is very similar to Lanzarote, and they're both volcanic islands. They both have tremendous amounts of wind, the heat, just the place to do an Ironman. An Ironman, well, that's the toughest of endurance sports, 140.6 miles. But for those of you who go on metric, 225.9 kilometers of tough travel. Many say that the island of Lanzarote offers a tougher challenge than Hawaii. One thing's for sure, it's got to be hard. Lanzarote has been a center for international sport for many years, and everything's really based on the Club La Santa. And that's a little Danish enclave that has been here for nearly a decade. Ironman, well, that starts off with a 3.8 kilometer swim, 2.4 miles, based on the original Waikiki rough water swim in Hawaii. And that's followed by 180 kilometers or 112 miles of bike riding. And that is also based on an Hawaii race, but this time the Around Oahu bike race. And finally, if that's not enough, you've got a full marathon, 26.2 miles or 42.195 kilometers. And that was based on the Honolulu Marathon. They put all three events together to form this thing called the Ironman. And this is Detlef Kunnel, who is the race director of Ironman Europe. And he's telling us really a little about the history, saying that back in 1978, there were a few American soldiers who wondered who was the best athlete, the swimmer, biker, and the runner. And they were sitting imbibing a few drinks in a bar in Honolulu, and thought they'd join all three existing endurance events on Honolulu together. That's the Waikiki rough water swim, the Around Oahu bike race, and finally the Honolulu Marathon. And 15 of them, back in 1978, set out for this crazy sport, as it was known then. That was the first Ironman. Ironman was born. Ever since then, Hawaii really is the mecca for Ironman. The mecca for triathlon has been the place where every triathlete wants to go and compete in.
That was a close picture. Hi, Mom.
Not only is the Ironman crazy, but it seems a lot of the competitors are really getting to the spirit here. We've got 160 competitors from 20 countries, predominantly Danes, as you can see, with their red flag. He's not a Dane, he's a Welshman, actually. All starts at Playa Blanca, which is on the southwesternmost tip of Lanzarote. And they're going to swim in the Atlantic off the coast here, but they're just putting in their bikes at the moment. They have to register their bikes. And this is a 45-year-old from Germany, a Dr. Strunz, and he says that, would you believe that he believes Ironman is for anyone. He only started 3 years ago with jogging, and he compares his human body with a car. He says a normal body is on 2 cylinders, but an athlete's body is 12 cylinders. And he said you can build up to 12 cylinders with a few years of training. And with no more than 130 pulse rates per minute, you can easily become an Ironman. I'm not sure whether I believe him, but that's what his theory is, at any rate. We'll have to see how he gets on. So what he's saying is you've got to go slowly throughout if you're going to compete in Ironman. Well, at 45, I suppose you've got to go slowly. These are some athletes preparing themselves for the Ironman. This is on the course at Lanzarote, out in the volcano area, the lava fields they're biking through. You can see the different types of bikes they've got there. Have a little run out through the vineyards. Some very good local Lanzarote wine here. The Spanish are good for the Rioja, but that doesn't come from this area. They have some little reds and whites. I mentioned there are a variety of bikes, and this is just a few of them here which are going to be used for this Ironman. See the Scott profile bars there on the front that really were developed for triathlon. Carbon Kevlar frames, very high tech the sport of triathlon. I suppose a lot of aircraft technology has gone into the design of these bikes. See the pads they lean on. A little computer in blue there on the front end, which will tell them how fast they're going, how far they've been. Most bikes nowadays have the derailleur gears on the back, but the racing bikes now have a 7-speed on the back. Most of your normal bike has a 6-speed gear on the back end, but these have a 7, and of course 2 discs on the front, which makes it 14 gears overall. This is the toughest of endurance events, and any endurance event does demand huge amount of carbohydrates before the event. You've got to load up to build up those glycogen stores, because a lot of these people, they're going to be out there for, well, up to 16 hours. The winner, well, he'll be around about 9 hours, I would think, but for many of these, they're going to spend all day swimming, biking, and running. So they're just building up their glycogen stores, their energy levels, so that they can survive the rigors of the Ironman. A lot of them here are actually to qualify for Hawaii. There are only 2 events in Europe that are qualification races. And this is Stefan Hartig, one of the competitors, and he's telling us why there is such a big party. As I've said, it's necessary to fill up with energy before the event, to have enough in store, and to refill lost energy from all those practice sessions we saw earlier. So the old triathlete is wall-to-wall eating. And of course another important thing, if not more important, is the fluid. Certainly in the heat of the Lanzarote sun, they're going to lose quite a few liters of fluid, so it's very important to to keep the fluid level up. This again is our Dr. Strunz. This time he's telling us about the bike course. It's very competitive with many uphill parts. I believe him. And their competitor will lose much energy. They have to refill it with sugar, not pure sugar, I hope, and therefore they must eat very much. What about during the running? Well, it's to be very hot, and people will lose a lot of water, and they must replace this by drinking as much as possible. Well, at the run, it'll be a little late if they haven't been taking fluid all the way through the bike ride. They actually lose a lot of fluid during the opening swim section. People don't realize that you do sweat during swimming, especially with the wetsuit on. So it's very important throughout the race, before the race and throughout the race, to get those fluid levels really high. I mentioned that you've even got to take them on the bike, and we can see here how important it is. This is Frank RIEHLE saying that they've got a few problems with this race because for some reason there are no special foods for the athletes, and they were originally going to have power bars, but because of a national strike the power bars didn't arrive, so the bakeries have been busy the night before the race baking a lot of cakes, but of course you're talking about 100 calories a throw for a cake as opposed to 1,000 calories a throw for a power bar, so they're going to have to eat a lot of cakes during it. And he also mentioned they had a little problem with the fluid bottles. Again, that got held up in the national strike of Lanzarote. So there's been a little rushing around on the organisers' part to make sure that the athletes will be well equipped. Here's our Dr. Strunz again. And he's saying that 80% of the preparation is psychological. 5% is training and 15% is food. He starts a month before for training about the course and then to get knowledge of the different points. Otherwise, you'll be surprised and frustrated about the difficulties of the course. But of course, that is very important. And he said you must be prepared in your head before you get involved with the problems of an Ironman. I'm not sure whether I think it's 80% psychological, but we'll have to wait and see. So the bikes are transported to the start. Little problem with this course. Well, we'll come back to that. We're going to take a little break, and we'll tell you about the problems of the logistical problems of the course.
Above all, our new car has to be roomy.
But also nice and powerful.
And economical, right, darling?
Comfortable.
With room for the whole family.
But still affordable.
Does such a car exist?
The applause from Daihatsu, Japan.
A name appears. A story unfolds. And not for the first time, it writes itself a new chapter in office technology. Suddenly, everything is crystal clear. Because the name is Star. Star, the computer printer.
Sports fashion.
Welcome back to the 1992 Ironman Lanzarote. A little Spanish island which is more popular for tourists than I suppose the athletes, although it is very popular for athletes here. The Club de Santa is a great international sporting centre. In fact, the sport director of Lanzarote, Kenneth Gasque, he was the first Dane to compete in the Ironman back in 1984, and his dream was to bring Ironman to Lanzarote, or in fact bring it to Europe. He wasn't the first to bring it to Europe. Detlef Kunnel was that in Roth, Germany.
It's going to be a hard race because it's the area is very up and down, and it's a special climate. It looks a little like Hawaii. So in Hawaii is very tough. I think it's very tough here too.
So that's Ben Van Zelst, the current European champion of the Ironman distance, asked what his thoughts of the course, and we also asked a few other people, some of the women and other of the men favourites.
My first big race out of the States.
And you've had a time to see the course?
Yes.
What do you think of it?
It looks very challenging. It's going to be a very interesting course.
And do you have any particular game plan today?
Have a good time and go hard but easy and safe.
McMartin, you've been a cycling professional. What do you think about the cycling today?
Well, that was a long time ago, eh? Today, if you try to beat the course, it'll beat you. You just have to take what it gives you and keep an even effort.
Well, I hope a lot of people heard that. I'm sure Matt Martin, who was a pro in the early 80s on the Olympic team, never made the Olympics, but he was actually on the US national cycling team. Do you have a particular game plan today?
Yeah, going out easily, not pushing anything, that's actually it, and trying to come through as good as possible.
And what about, you think you can win?
No, I don't think so, but I'll do my best.
I think the decision is with the bicycle for me.
Yeah.
I think I'm third or fourth out of the water, I think. And then I hope that I'm with the bicycle on the first place. And then the running, we should know.
So those are some of the favourites. Ben Van Zelst, Rachel Roberts, Matt Martin, Charlotte Boving, Ada van Zweten was the last one. And we'll see how they get on. They all seem to have a similar game plan. I think the bike's going to be the toughest part.
Wer sind für dich heute die großen
And I wonder
Favoriten?
who Heiner Boden thinks are the favourites. Well, he thinks Ben Van Zelst is the number one man, especially because he can run a marathon and an Ironman in 2 hours 38. Van Zelst does, in fact, hold the record for that feat. And also he knows the course very well. Dieter Stein? Well, he thinks Matt Martin's very powerful, and he could be in front of the cycling.
Wer ist bei den Frauen vielleicht die beste?
But the final victory will go to Ben Van Zelst. And in the women, well, the favourite must be Ada van Zweten.
Ich denke, bei den Herren ist es Ben Van
Aaron
Zelst und
KIEDERLE,
Marie Heus,
another
und
German.
bei den Damen Ada van
He thinks
Zweten
that Ben Van Zelst will dominate the race with Mario Heus from Belgium and Ada van Zweten and Rachel Roberts, the American we saw earlier,
Dieter, nach
because they seem to have the best preparation.
Ja, du wirst die österreichischen Fahnen vertreten. Was glaubst du?
There's only one Austrian competitor, and this is Dieter QUEISSNER. And he jokingly says he's going to be 5th in his age group because there are only 5 competitors. Well, he was actually wrong because he was forced to retire early on, but perhaps we'll see that later. Who knows? So the 160 competitors from 20 countries get ready to go in the Atlantic here off Playa Blanca, which I've never seen so calm. It's normally quite a choppy area, but it's like a duck pond this morning. This really is the best part, I believe, of a triathlon, the swim start. Even with only 160 people, which with the problems they've had with the food not arriving, problems with the water bottles, that's not a bad number to look after. A lot of responsibility looking after only 160 athletes over one full day of competition. And a lot of them will be competing, but others will just be trying to complete the course. 146 miles of tough travel, which gets underway now with this 3.8 kilometer or 2.4 mile swim. And as I said, the unusually calm Atlantic waters. You wouldn't think we're in the 150 miles off the northeast coast of Africa. Certainly very calm. This is, that was Klaus Remke, 26-year-old German, setting the early pace. With Miguel Marina, a local Spaniard from the nearby island of Las Palmas. And understand Mac Martin is up there with him. This is also another German, Peter Lossenbach. In fact, this is Mac Martin with the yellow hat, the German right on his side. You might be wondering why they're wearing wetsuits. Well, first of all, the water temperature is only 19 degrees, so it's a little cool. But also, it's a big safety aid. You're out there for such a long time, you have to give them a bit of safety. And the wetsuit is very good for that. It also gives them a lot of buoyancy, makes it easier to swim. Or you can concentrate more on the technique than having to worry about floating. So it's a good safety device. And also, actually, it's a big advantage for the weaker swimmers, because if they can get behind a good swimmer, they can get quite a tow, saving between 5 and 10% of the energy just to be sucked along. But this person's not being sucked along. That's our early lead woman, which was Annette Elhart, a young German, 25-year-old. There are a lot of Germans in this race, something like 50 to 60. Someone here has had enough of the crawl. He's doing a little breaststroking. Perhaps he's just seeing where he's got to go. No problem in seeing today, though, with these unusually calm waters. You can see the buoys to turn very easily. See a variety of strokes here. I think the only waves being called by the motorboats for the camera crews. But see the power here of Miguel Moreno, number 59, leading the swim. Look at Spanish getting really excited with a Spanish leader in this first ever Ironman Lanzarote. I might be saying Lanzarote or Lanzarote. It's called both here. So please excuse me if I say either. Annette Elhart, a young German. First time in Lanzarote, and also it's her first ever Ironman. A little of the style, the finesse of the swimmers as the swimmers come around the last turn of this 3.8 kilometer swim back towards Playa Blanca. Just to say the developments in the background. This is our leader. It's still Miguel Moreno, the 31-year-old from Las Palmas. Going around the jet ski there. Well, everyone to their own, as they say. It's a nice stroke, isn't it? Don't know about the speed. There is a cut-off time of 2 hours 15, so he can't afford to be too slow, or else he won't be able to go out onto his the bike for the next stage. It's a 7 o'clock start, so you can see it's still a little overcast on the side there. But the incredibly calm waters of the Atlantic. I just can't believe this. It's amazing. So this is Miguel Moreno and Eduardo Urban, a Czechoslovakian, 26-year-old on the back end. He prefers to be called a Slovak now, not a Czechoslovak, a Slovak. And just behind is a Belgique, Jean Moreau, number 89. They're heading the swim. Swim part, in fact, is one of the only, I suppose, the only part of the Ironman where the women really compete on equal terms. And we understand Rochelle Roberts, the American from Oceanside, is up there with the leading pack of men. This guy's retired for some reason. I don't think he's just not feeling too good.
You need a doctor, anything? No. The doctor was there on the boat.
Well, if you're not ready for this 3.8 kilometer swim, you're foolish continuing, especially with 180 kilometers of biking to follow and then a full marathon run. This is the lead group of 3 coming out. We just saw the glimpse of the pack behind, which Rachelle Roberts is actually leading. So, Miguel Moreno, the local Spaniard. I wonder if he's going to continue in the lead for Spain. It will be a surprise if he does. But he certainly swam well. It's going to be just a fraction over 50 minutes, I would think, for this opening swim. So that's very respectable swimming. This is still Annette Elhart, the first for the young German. But she's actually in second place at the moment, behind Rachelle Roberts. Rachelle's nearing the beach. Well, a few people got up early anyway to watch the start of this race. Miguel Moreno, he's out of the water first in just over 50 minutes, as we thought. 50:14. Just saw the clock in the background. This is Moreno, and right behind Eduardo Urban, just a few seconds down. And Jean Moreau, the Belgique, just coming out behind them.
59.
So, get rid of all that salty water now. Press the shower, didn't work, oh well. Have to put up with it.
72.
So Miguel Moreno is just going for a quick change. You heard them calling out their numbers. 72, that's Edward Urban, the Czechoslovakian. And I understand the pump is broken on the water. This is 71, that's Peter Lossenbeck, a German. So he's had a good swim. Don't know much about him. So I wonder who they're waiting for.
Come on, looking good.
And this is the first woman out, Rachelle Roberts on the front end here. She had a tremendous swim. She's a swim coach in Oceanside out in California, so she's used to this swimming. Been swimming since the age of the age of 5, I think. From 5 to 13, she was a competitive swimmer, so she's certainly used to the water. And now it's off with that wetsuit, through the shower, put the cycling shoes on, and then out on the road for those 180 kilometers.
Come on,
Pretty undulating and testing times in the Lanzarote course. It's not easy, it's a very demanding bike ride. It's the second woman who led for most of the way. Annette Elhart, first Ironman, the first time on Lanzarote. Doesn't even too much of a rush. Well, she's just done 3.8 kilometers or 2.4 miles, so who can blame her? This is another woman, that's Charlotte Boving. She's quite a bit down there. Oh, they've got the showers working at last. Found the pump. That was Lars Koenig just gone through. First out on the bike, well, that's Jean Moreau, the Belgique. So he's had a much quicker change. And he's off. And this is Rachelle Roberts. She's also had a very swift change. I'm sure she's looking forward to this 180 kilometers of bike. The pre-favorite, well, that was Ben Van Zelst here, all in red. And Matt Martin, number 3, the American. Both, I suppose, the 2 favorites for this race. Ben having a bit of problem getting his bike out of the rack. Perhaps his tires expanded. Anyway, as they go off on the bike, we'll go off and have a little break. But don't go away.
Technics cares for the Earth's environment. Take our portable CD player. It uses very little energy, so you can enjoy 10 hours of high-quality sound. The Technics portable CD player, the CD player that loves the Earth the most.
A name appears. A story unfolds. And not for the first time, it writes itself a new chapter in office technology. Suddenly, everything is crystal clear because the name is Star. Star, the computer printer.
Welcome back to the 1992 Ironman Lanzarote. Our early leader, Jean Moreau, has got a little company. This is the Slovak, Edward ERWIN. And on the road from Playa Blanca, where they swam the 3.8 kilometers, and they're off up to RIEHLE. This really is a magical mystery tour of Lanzarote, this bike course. It's 180 kilometers, and it takes in most of the island. They cut across through RIEHLE, up over the Fire Mountain, down to La Santa, Club La Santa, which we talked about earlier. Then they turn around and come back up and do another loop in the volcano before they head off towards Famara. And then they have the big climb up to Las Peñas del Xaxa, which is 670 meters above sea level. Edward ERWIN, the young Slovak's taken the lead, setting the pace, and I'm sure he's trying to get away from the people behind. He knows he's going to be chased hard by Ben Van Zelst and Mac Martin as the bike ride progresses. The early morning sun is now up, and this is the road up to Fire Mountain. Montana del Fuego. They really call it the lonely road, and it is lonely. It's a long, hard road. It seems to go on and on. But once over, you have a little descent, which takes you, again, through the lava fields, over towards Tanajo, and then down to La Santa. Chasing hard, this is Ben Van Zelst in red, and closely followed by Mac Martin. You can see he's staying the stipulated distance behind. He doesn't want to get within 10 meters of him, or else if he does, he's got to overtake him, or else if he stays there, he could be penalized for drafting or taking pace. Not allowed in the sport of triathlon, or indeed duathlon, unlike the riders in the Tour de France, who do take pace. Consequently, their speed is a little higher, but the speed is pretty schnell here. This is Van Zelst. He's no shirk on the bike. He's really pushing hard. He is the current European champion over the Ironman distance. He won at Almere in his home country of Holland last year. And in fact, Almere was his first victory back in '87. Sorry, '88 when he won the Almere Ironman, which in those days was the Dutch Championships. But they're just coming up towards La Santa, or Club La Santa. They've gone through La Santa village. This is an international sporting centre, second to none, Club La Santa. It's got a 400-metre track, beautiful tartan track, 50-metre pool. They cater for 28 different sports. See, they're miles away from these riders who are still going up towards Fire Mountain, Montana del Fuego. It's a long, long climb. You must have the right gear, certainly, on this course. ERWIN still out in front. Coming back up from La Santa now to Tanajo, past one of the many restaurants here. If you ever come to La Santa, there are some fantastic seafood restaurants. They specialize in seafood. I can certainly recommend many of them. As I can the local vineyard wines, you can just see they're going through the vineyards, and the wine of La Santa, or Lanzarote, there is a La Santa wine, is quite exceptional. The 180-kilometer bike course, well, that's somewhere where they normally switch off, but not at Lanzarote. It's a very technical course, as well as being demanding, both in physical ability with the many climbs, but also the nerve. We see later some very good descents. Someone who doesn't have much nerve, though, is Ben Van Zelst in red. He's just on the front end of these four. Mac Martin in the third of the four there, with Ollie Zimmerman, a German. So they've reeled in Edward ERWIN. The four of them now are going away up towards the climb, up towards Las Peñas del Xaxa, and that it really is a climb. can see one of the many volcanoes in the background. I think there's something like 296 inactive volcanoes on Lanzarote. It's about 2 centuries ago was the last eruption they had here. Van Zelst, number 1. He gets the number 1 number. This is Ollie Zimmerman, the 26-year-old German. Comes from Buchenbach. Not really got any form, although he has already competed and completed Roth and qualified for Hawaii last year, and also completed there as well. I mentioned some of the descents. Well, they've just gone over the top of Las Penas del Chacha at 670 meters, and there really is a very technical section the other side. A lot of hairpin bends, which test their biking ability to the limit. Not the place to switch off for sure. Actually, you might be taking a little ride out over. There's Mac Martin going down. They'll be touching somewhere like 35, 40, 45 miles an hour coming down here. Czech taking a little slowly. Well, that was the reason. Not quite the skills of the others. And he's got the typical road rash of the cycle form. A little puncher, lost the back end. Anyway, it's all repaired. He's on his way again. Mentally, though, I think that must have hurt him a little bit. And of course, physically. But on the descents, Van Zelst got away from Mac Martin. And he's now at Costa de Keys, where it's the transition onto the final element, the run. This is a unique transition area here. It's in the Elita apartment complex down in the cellar. They go down there, they've got a nice change. They can have a shower if they want. Not for Van Zelst though, he'll be right through. He's got about 3 minutes on Mac Martin, the American, who comes through in 2nd place. I understand Van Zelst had the fastest bike split of 5 hours 12:02. I don't think anyone's going to get under 5 hours on this bike course. It really is a very tough course. 3rd in, it's still Eduardo Urban. Meanwhile, many of the others are still out on the bike course. Through the picturesque villages that are on offer here, and there are some fantastic sights. What he means, but sure he does. You see it's hotting up here, just a little heat haze. So it's going to be really warm for the run section. I understand the temperature is in the high 80s. So for those who are not totally prepared for this race, well, they're going to find it tough. Someone who's finding it tough, and indeed lonely, is Rachelle Roberts, our women's swim leader. She came out in 53 minutes, just a fraction over, and she's been out front for most of the ride. She's been chased by the young German, Annette Elhart, who's also had company from Janine Roberts, another American. And we understand Charlotte Boving, who we saw coming out of the water in 4th place, is biking really hard and catching up something like, or some of the 10-minute deficit she had after the swim. But this is Janine Daley, who's moving through the field. She's now in 3rd place.
Another guy between, and then Ben, Mac Martin, and I don't know who's behind.
Janine is out in the lava fields.
5 minutes 10.
Getting some outside help. Sounded like Irma Schwartzkreuz, the wife of Ben Van Zelst, who's leading the men's race. So Rachel Roberts out front, Annette Elhart, Janine Daley, and then Ada Van Zweten. I suppose she was the woman's favourite, but she's finding it a little tough, this bike course. Doesn't seem to be getting into her normal rhythm that we know she can do. Perhaps it's early season heat. Anyway, she's gone past Annette Elhart, so she's gone into 3rd place with Janine Daley now in 2nd behind Rachel, or Rachelle, as she likes to be known, from Oceanside, California. The only company for Rachelle at the moment is the camera crew and the ghosts. This is Charlotte Boving, really has pushed hard on the bike. Even the bike seems to be taking a little strain here. It's squeaking along. Oh, she is going well. And so is this woman. Problems with Charlotte. She might have pushed too hard too early. This is a long way, 180 kilometers. It's only a long way for Rachelle Roberts. Anyway, she's at last got company. She's 100 kilometers into the bike ride, coming up to the penultimate climb at Mirador del Rio, and she's been joined by Janine Daley. And they've also been joined by Charlotte Boving, so she's made up 10 minutes on Rachelle Roberts. That's amazing. You can see what I mean about the hard climbs on this course, but you do get some breathtaking views. So all three of them now, Boving on the front, Daley behind, and Rachelle Roberts hanging on after having a lonely day as they come over the final climb. As then they've got the fast descent, and it is a fast descent down into Orzola before they turn back towards Costa de Keys for the next transition. This is where they'll have to test the nerve, and someone who did test the nerve well was Charlotte Boving, as she got away on the descent and took a minute out of Janine Daley and Rachelle Roberts back towards Costa de Keys to the transition. But she's been a long time in the transition area. She did have, well, I understand, 2.5 minutes on Janine Daley, but she's lost nearly 2 minutes in the transition area. So you can see she's suffering a little, not taking enough fluids on the course, which our Dr. Stroets told us early on was very important. So whether she can keep it going now, we'll have to wait and see. Getting every assistance from the many supporters she has. She does race for Club La Santa, and this is Janine Daley now in second place, made up nearly 2 minutes in the transition area. So Charlotte Boving, she had the fastest bike split of 6 hours 12:54, compared with Van Zelst 5:12:02. It shows you how tough it is. And that's Rachelle Roberts, the tough woman who's headed for most of the bike. Lost a little bit on the closing stage of the bike, but we understand she's a tough and gutsy performer on the run. So she'll be looking to perhaps make up some of that time on Janine and Rachelle. Well, we'll take another break. We'll come back and find out what happens.
Sportbild News. Deutschland steht im Endspiel. Aber kann Deutschland auch Europameister werden? Das Geheimnis, wie die neue Elf nachts um 5 geboren wurde, in Sportbild. Hessler ist der große EM-Star. Wo nimmt der kleine Mann nur seine unglaubliche Spielstärke und Kondition her? Die Antworten gibt Sportbild. Tennis-Weltstar Becker am Scheideweg seiner Karriere. Seine Ex-Trainer fragen besorgt: Boris, warum trainierst du so wenig?
Sportbild. Jede Woche mit TV Sport. Deutschlands größtem TV-Sportprogramm. Sportbild. Die Nummer 1 im Sport. Für 1,50 Mark.
Nature gave us a lot of things. Hands, eyes, ears. When Nokia creates something in television, video recorder or satellite receiver, Nokia is thinking first and foremost in a natural way. The way that lets people use their hands, eyes, ears with natural freedom.
Nokia. Freedom through technology.
Welcome back to the closing stages of the 1992 Lanzarote Ironman, or Ironman Lanzarote, as Ben Van Zelst, the leader in the men's race, sets off on the final element, the 26.2 miles or 42.195 kilometer run, which takes them from Costa de Keys, where they are at the moment, and that's Matt Martin in second place, from Costa de Keys, loop around to Arrecife, the capital of Lanzarote, and then finally to Puerto del Carmen, the very popular resort where the finish is. Matt Martin there had a very good bike in second place behind Van Zelst. This is Mario Huys, the Belgique, and perhaps he's in third place at the moment, must be. So he's had a good closing stages to the bike ride to come back up into third place. At 89, that's Jean Moreau, another Belgique. He's in fourth place. So we've got Holland, America, Belgium. Well, unlike Charlotte Boving, he's gone through that first aid station very quickly. Perhaps he's looking forward to the run. Anyway, there, the swim. Ben Van Zelst. After this swim and bike, rather, it's Ben Van Zelst with Mac Martin. And this is the young Slovak who had the little crash. That's Edward Irwin. We understand he's now back in 12th position, so he lost quite a bit. And Charlotte Boving, she's just lost the lead, we understand, to Janine Daley. She looks very heavy now. Obviously, he is suffering from the that hard bike ride, fastest bike split. Janine Daley here now leading the women's section, having a little problem with the wind, blowing the visor off. Certainly getting in those fluids. The temperature's in the high 80s, so she's got to make sure she is well loaded up with the fluids to survive this final stage. Someone who's surviving though is Rachelle Roberts. There we are, she's up in third place, giving some support to one of the tiring men. 78, that was Philippe Ledilly, a Frenchman. Okay, she too is taking the cooling effect from the feed stations. Annette Elhart, the early swimmer, she's now back in, or swim leader should I say, she's now back in fourth position. But she's going on. Remember, this is her first Ironman, unlike Daley and Roberts, who've done a few. And Ada van Zweten here, looks like she did have a problem on the bike.
I had no power in my legs today. I came out of the water and the first 40 kilometers on the bike, I felt so heavy legs. And I just relaxed, but it never came back. And so the cycling was very hard for me. And it is no use now to run. So.
Well, she had heavy legs, unfortunately for Ada, and so does Charlotte Boving. Obviously that bike split of 6 hours 12, the fastest bike split, has taken its toll, and she's having to walk and run. But there, it's survival. She's still well placed in the field, and she knows there's $50,000 prize money at stake. $8,500 to the winner, and the leader at the moment is Janine Daley, coming through the dockland at Arrecife. Then it's down the highway to Puerto del Carmen, past the airport, to the finish at Puerto del Carmen itself, along the seafront. Looking forward, I'm no doubt, to the cooling sea breezes, as is Rachelle Roberts here, who led for so long. Well, this is our leader, Ben Van Zelst, having a little problem. So he's suffering a little in the heat. A little dehydrated, no doubt. And he always used to suffer from stomach problems. He's still got a problem today, obviously. It used to be to do with the food he had prior to the race. But he told me before that he got over it, but obviously hadn't quite got over it. He's back going again now, so just coming into Arrecife with about Oh, 12 or so kilometers to go on this final run. He does hold the fastest split on the run, so it wasn't quite as hot as this though when he did that back in Almere. Matt Martin in second place, looking good. It's past 32 kilometer point, so that's 10 kilometers to go. They've closed part of the highway here at between Arrecife and Puerto del Carmen by the airport. Still struggling though is Ben Van Zelst, 30-year-old from Amersfoort in Holland, races for the Adia Kaiser team, Dutch champion back in 1988, and the current European champion over the Ironman distance. They only have the Ironman distance championships every other year. This year it's the half Ironman up at ERWIN in Finland in the beginning of August. Not sure whether Van Zelst is competing. He's certainly having to compete here.
Till this moment, approximately, that you can't win, because you still can die on the run.
There we are. At any rate, he's approaching the finish, so let's hope he doesn't die and he completes and wins this first ever Ironman Lanzarote. Most of the competitors, well, they're looking for 50 qualifying slots for the Hawaii Ironman. Ironman is a qualifying race now, and this race is only one of two in Europe where you can actually qualify for Hawaii. Van Zelst, well, he's already qualified because he finished in the top 15 last year at Hawaii, finished 8th in Hawaii last year. Coming up towards the finish now. Many of the people come off the beach or finish their siesta and coming out to cheer them on in the closing stages of this inaugural Ironman, the dream of Kenneth Gasque. It looks as though Ben Van Zelst, the Dutchman, the Flying Dutchman, is going to win the first ever Ironman Lanzarote. I'm sure this will be one of the premier races in the future over the Ironman distance, but this year it's Van Zelst the winner. Well, that's $8,500 better off. I'm sure she's pleased. That's Irma Zvorkruz, Ben's wife. Used to be a triathlete herself. She retired earlier this year. Taking his lap of honor. I just thought that's the last thing he wants to do after 140.6 miles of travel. Just failed to get over under the 9 hours. 9 hours and 11 seconds. Ran a 2:55 marathon. And this is Jean Moreau, moved up into second place. Well, went out fourth on the run, moved up to second at the end behind Van Zelst. Picks up $5,000 second prize. That's not bad, is it? Though they have earned it. Over 9 hours of competition. He's enjoyed it, hasn't he? And Matt Martin, he drops down to third. He won't be disappointed, though. Third place in an Ironman. It's 37 years of age. It's pretty good going in anyone's book. And in fourth, well, that's the Swede, Morten Jorgensen, 27-year-old from Sorrow up in, not Swede, from Denmark. Sorrow in Denmark. At any rate, Ben Van Zelst, he's telling us
in the uphill.
What he thought of the race.
He was still looking fresh, so, you know, every time he came back, and, you know, I was riding in front and he didn't want to ride that much in front. So I said, or I tried to make a gap in the downhill because I know I'm not afraid for it.
Certainly wasn't afraid. He's actually practiced it.
Worked well out.
For the week preceding the event.
Your second place. Did you expect something like that today?
In fact, I was well prepared for that race, but not second place because I arrived yesterday at 6 o'clock and I didn't have the time to watch the bike circuit. I didn't know anything, and the bike was really tough for me because I didn't have the right gear with me, and it was a little tough. And after it, I didn't ride too hard, and I reserved myself for the marathon.
Well, there we are. Didn't even see the bike course. Finished second. That's tremendous, isn't it? Anyway, leading the women's race, that's Janine Daley. Although everyone thinks she hasn't won, this non-person has jumped in front of her, which takes a little glory away from Janine, but she won't mind. She's going to win the 1992 Ironman Lanzarote. in a time of 10 hours, 45 minutes and 07 seconds. It's nearly 11 hours out on the road for $8,500. Rochelle Roberts, well, she moved past the tiring Boving and got the second place. Something like 20 minutes behind Daley. So that really is a tremendous performance from the woman from Oceanside, California. And Charlotte Boving, although she's finishing third, she looks pleased, representing Club La Santa here. So that's a very good performance for the Dutch champion over the much shorter distance there. I'm sure we'll see some more from Charlotte Boving in the future.
Good swim, had a decent bike, strong and steady, which is what I wanted, and a good run. So.
Got really hard though. It was hard to be out there in the lead for so long. I've never done it before and I'd like to do it again.
Well, let's hope she comes back. So the 1992 champion is Ben Van Zelst from Holland in 9 hours, 1 minute and 30 seconds. Janine Daley for the women in 10 hours, 45:07. Both pick up $8,500. Total equality in the sport of triathlon. 50 men, well, they qualified for Hawaii, so we'll see them in Hawaii later on this year in October. But there we have it. The first ever Ironman Lanzarote. It's been known as the European Hawaii, the Hawaii of Europe. Takes all types. 160 people.